Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Property Pro Tips straight from the pros. I am your host, Trevor Henson, and today we have the privilege of having Mr. John Nikfarjam on our show. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Jonathan Nikfarjam is the managing principal and founder of Shield Commercial Real Estate and is a seasoned professional with 16 years of experience in the industry. His impressive track record includes closing over 250 transactions, totally nearly $1 billion with a B dollars in sales, and setting multiple high-price sales records. Jonathan, you're freaking a legend, man. Before founding Shield, Jonathan was managing principal of Coldwell Banker Commercial Advisors in El Segundo, ranking among the top 2% of agents nationwide. He has received numerous accolades, including the 2023 Los Angeles Times B2B Real Estate Visionaries Award. Very coveted award in my book. Jonathan also holds a degree in real estate finance from the absolute best university in the entire universe, USC. Right on, Jonathan. And enjoys playing piano and basketball in his free time. Thank you for your time and welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Trevor.
All right, man. So diving right in with the first question. Tell us, what motivated you to pursue a career in commercial real estate brokerage?
Sure. So I've always been interested in real estate. I went to USC just like yourself. I studied real estate finance and corporate finance. So I grew up actually in a real estate family. So my dad is a real estate developer. It was somewhat innate. It was taught to us at an early age. So always knew I'd want to be in real estate. From there, I went to USC. I studied it, but I also graduated in 2008 during the last recession, right? So we were in a pretty large financial crisis back in 2008. Sorry about that. We were in a pretty big financial crisis back in 2008. At that time, I was interviewing for various jobs in the real estate industry. And, I went on a lot of job interviews where they pretty much told me it was a courtesy interview. Said, hey, we're not really hiring at this time. We're continuing to do interviews, but we've got maybe one spot for 30, 40, applicants. We're probably going to take someone who's 10, 15 years, 20 years in the business who just got laid off. We're just letting you know, don't be discouraged, keep working hard. So at that time, back in '08, which was a, very difficult time in the market,
Indeed.
I did want to stay in real estate, and I was, my options were pretty limited. And it was suggested to me that if I was going to go try to learn as much as I could about the industry and go back into the workforce, into, like a real estate analyst type of position or something like that, that I get my feet wet in brokerage. So truth be told, I went into brokerage as a stopgap measure. It was just, hey, I'm going to go in here, learn what I can, wait a couple of years, see if the market rebounds, and then get out and, go work for a developer, go be an acquisitions analyst, something like that. But as fast forward about, fast forward 16 years later, here I am. So that's how I got started.
Why'd you stay? After
I learned pretty quickly with just like with everything else in life, right? You can't really do it 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you're going to be successful at anything you're going to do, you have to fully apply yourself. So in the first several months, I was working very hard, but not hard enough. I wasn't seeing results. Eventually, I kind of came to terms with, hey, I can't really look at this as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. I have to look at this as though I'm all in, I'm fully committed, I'm going to give it everything I've got. Once I started doing that and, picking it up a notch and really pushing myself, started to see more and more results. And the harder, I'd work, the more I'd invested in the business. I started to not just become more successful, but realize that, that success was going to breed more and more success. And I just kept sticking with it. Things continued to get better and better for me and, never looked back.
Excuse me. That's awesome. Awesome, Jonathan. I did not know that part. It's a very good lesson for those listening. You can't do two things well. You can do two things okay, but you can only do one thing well, and you have to focus, right? It's
you really got to be.
Focus.
I think with everything you do in life, you got to be really committed to it.
All in or all out.
Yeah,
love it. And Jonathan, what inspired you? So you started with your first company, your first brokerages, and those were you were working for some big companies, big corporate America. And what inspired you to take the giant entrepreneurial leap from corporate America into founding Shield Commercial?
Yeah, so I started at Marks and Millichap back in 2008. I was there for 7 years. So back in early 2014, middle 2014, I actually started getting recruited by a hedge fund out of New York, Waterfall Asset Management. They came to me and they pretty much said, "Hey, we're looking to acquire groups of what we consider to be successful brokers, and recruiting them to go in and open up new brokerage offices throughout the country." So I was, fortunate enough to have a chance to interview for that, and I did solidify, a buyout deal with them. What ended up happening is they ended up supporting me to go build out an office under the Coldwell Banker Commercial Advisors brand in El Segundo. So they basically came to me and said, "Hey, what do you need to be successful? Run and operate business for us. You'll be the managing principal of that office, and help grow the business." So after 7 years at Marcus, I did that for Coldwell Banker for 3 years. Having that experience after 3 years, you pretty much had someone who was an open checkbook, a hedge fund at the time, helping you figure out how to, build the office, lease out the space, build the agents, the entire infrastructure, which was fantastic to do it on someone else's dime. But at the same time,
great experience.
Yeah, so I kind of got the footprint and all the financial backing up front to go in and do what I needed to do. And then after, being in the business for 10 years and, recognizing that I, had been able to do it for someone else, I came to terms with, hey, why not do this myself for me? Being able to invest in the infrastructure, knowing exactly what the, recipe is for success, already having all the systems in place and being able to kind of take on that entrepreneurial spirit. Said, yeah.
It's like you got a free on-the-job MBA. Sounds like.
Yeah, luck. I think luck has a lot to do with it. Obviously, everyone says the harder you work, the luckier you get. We all know that. A lot of it's being at the right place at the right time. Having the right people give the right introductions, taking those meetings, making sure you take them seriously. Really over preparing and showing what you're capable of, especially at a pretty young age. So. I mean, back then, so that was, I was in my late 20s, right? So it's kind of like a pretty big gamble for someone to go and invest, hundreds of thousands of dollars in, up and coming, aspiring, agent in the business, with the vision and the drive to go in and build out an office. But, I was fortunate in that I had that. I had also the right partners in place. I recruited a co-managing principal to come on board with me, who was an outstanding partner, and even now at Shield, I've got a great partner. So it's really important you surround yourself with the right people who share the same drive.
100%. I think I said it before on the show. It's you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Yeah,
partnerships are key.
Absolutely. Yeah. We both shared a lot of those stories. So yeah.
So. And in doing so, during this whole time, the 16 years of all your work, you've been earning these awards, and one of them being the LA Times B2B Real Estate Visionaries Award. What impact do these recognitions have on your work and your personal motivation, if any?
So, receiving these different awards is it's obviously nice to know that you're doing the right things and you're gaining that type of recognition. I've never really been in it for any type of recognition or awards or accolades. It obviously helps substantiate you as a brand, as a broker, showing what your resume and track record is. It makes it easier to show your clients if other people are bragging about your success rather than yourself, right? But for me, that hasn't really been a big driving factor. I don't go into work thinking like I got to, close X amount of deals or do this much volume in business, and so I can hit this particular milestone. That just hasn't really been a driving force for me. I think for me, it's just been, I think you kind of operate on a few different things. For me, I'm the type of person like I kind of told you from the start, I have to be really all in with everything that I do. My career is the same way. If I'm going to, raise the flag and hold a banner that I stand behind. I want to bring forth a certain quality of work product. There's a certain level of client care, certain emphasis in everything that I do. That reputation has a lot of value. As far as all the accolades and things you mentioned, it's fantastic. I don't discredit that. It's wonderful. We're very appreciative for all of it, and it always helps. But like I said, it's a lot of just wanting to go out and do the best you can for your clients, and with that, some of these recognitions come along. I think for us, it's always about trying to give people the best advice we can. That's a big part of our business. And then through giving them really good advice, you develop these long-term, meaningful relationships, which in turn do create business and help you grow as an entrepreneur.
And you hit on something there. I just want to emphasize it. It is the long game in real estate. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very important point. A lot of people overlook that. Not just as an investor or someone who's looking at doing deals, but it's truly a relationship business. A lot of people that you may meet 10, 15 years ago, and all of a sudden run into each other again, and something happens. You've kept in touch. You have these meaningful conversations, and you leave the right impression so that they come back to you, and you continue to build upon that relationship.
I've heard it. In real estate, my mentor told me once, shared with me, he's like, reputation is everything because it's real. Real estate is real. There's no getting away from the realness of it. And so is your reputation. You could spend 15 years building a reputation. One day could shatter it if you're not careful. So, just from my personal experience with you, Jonathan, I can attest to your integrity and your working with you on some deals. We're going to get one here soon.
Yeah.
I can attest to I've always appreciated how much information and how forthcoming you've been with your deals and providing the maximum amount of information to your clients so they can make a fair judgment on what they're looking at. There's no punches
absolutely.
are pulled.
Yeah, thank you.
You are quite welcome. It's well deserved, as the awards will tell you. So now, in your bio, I mentioned that you closed like close to $1 billion with a B, dollars in commercial real estate sales. What would you consider to be your key factors of success, or key factors of success behind this? What are your key factors of success in closing that close to $1 billion?
Yeah, so I mean, there's some obvious things, right? So everybody knows that there's no substitute for hard work. I know that's a recurring theme, but you really have to put in the hours, especially in sales. It is a numbers game. It's about the amount of time you're putting in, cultivating your craft, becoming better and better at what you do. The longer you do it, the more transaction, deal flow that you're engaged in, the more hiccups and deal issues you're seeing, the easier it becomes for you to foresee those problems and prevent against them, right? So that's a big part of it. Again, I think for us personally in growing the business, we've been fortunate that a lot of our clients, after they work with us, they continue to stay very loyal. I think probably like our differentiating factor would be that we really work hard, like I said before, to give the best advice possible. We're always keeping people informed and sharing with them. Of course, in this climate, legislative changes are very important. Apartment sector, there's a new rule to keep up with every couple months. You really have to be on top of your game to know what's happening. But we do oftentimes give our clients advice that isn't at all about buying or selling. It's they kind of think of us as a sounding board, almost a financial advisor at times within, hey, just last week I have a client who sends me 9 of their rent rolls and says, please advise how much to raise each person. And I'm going through each building and giving them, advice on not too much here, this one, so it's little things like that. Or, hey, do you have contacts for insurance? Do you have a person for this, a person for that? You really have to have all of this in your arsenal to be a well-equipped resource for them. Plenty of examples of different situations where people have called upon us for advice, or they've come in to have a meeting, for face-to-face meeting about different things, and then we'll give them several new things to think about that they didn't even know existed, and all of a sudden we've helped them solve a problem without having to sell a property. I mean, like an example that comes to mind is we had a husband and wife come in for a meeting. They wanted to sell a property because they were going through a rough patch and potentially looking to get a divorce. They owned a property free and clear. It was worth about $1.5 million. Husband wanted to sell and be out. Wife wanted to keep it. And then we explained to them that they could actually refinance, and one partner buys out the other one. The wife gets to keep the property. Husband can now get his equity and move out. And now they're both happy. And then, 5 years later, you get a phone call saying like, hey, you gave us this great advice. We actually didn't get a divorce. We stayed together. Now we're selling. You're the broker. Just tell us what to do. You have situations like that where, it comes back around. You really can't be short-sighted with anything you do in this business. Like you said, your reputation's everything. You really have to genuinely care about people and do the best you can for them.
Wow, you literally just gave me the chills. That is one of the good feeling, like one of the best good feeling real estate stories I've heard in a long time, Jonathan. Like you actually saved the marriage through the deal. That is
I don't
awesome.
know. I think it's more just a lucky
like
correlation there. I don't know if that's necessarily related, but it's nice when things work out for people. Absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
If you had not, then they would have, because they knew you, right? So, I would give you the credit for a piece of it. Just being a married man myself, sometimes that one piece, it's like can't see the forest through the trees when you're in anger, right? You're very clouded, and so you become the voice of reason, and they're like, okay, we don't got to fight about this anymore, and it's not an issue, and that was the issue, and you solved it.
I mean, you see, you probably know it just as much as I do. Being in management, you've got a lot of different personalities. A lot of different clients dealing with tenants, not just the owners, all the different vendors, but you get a lot of direct exposure to things that they kind of give you a different scope or understanding of life, right? So I mean, that's a big part of what we do. You start to see things in their totality and realize what's important, and really kind of recalibrate yourself the right way. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome story too. Hopefully you're telling that to your kids one day. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're currently seeing in the market for buyers and sellers in the investment space?
The biggest one is going to be insurance. So California's been in an insurance crisis for over a year now, nearly 2 years. So insurance has been an ongoing battle. You do have legislative changes, which, like I said, that's something that can be difficult for a lot of people to grapple with, whether they want to make a big financial decision or investment now, if they want to hold off, they want to wait for, what happens in the November election. But I would say that the biggest hurdle has been insurance. What we've dealt with respect to insurance is that it's been a lot more difficult to get insurance, as you would expect, depending on the property, year of construction, overall condition, and a variety of different factors. But insurance companies are also requiring a lot more property upgrades as a prerequisite to providing insurance. So you can still get, insurance at a much higher premium, but a lot of times you're in a situation where you're almost forced to upgrade your electrical or other major systems like the roof, plumbing, and so forth. So that has definitely been a challenge for us, because you have a lot of clients that are now changing their buying parameters, maybe looking at buying only 1980s construction buildings or newer, or you have certain clients that have a large portfolio of buildings, and their focal point right now is making sure they've got the right insurance coverage on each of their buildings before continuing to expand. You have changes in buying habits. Like I said, you have circumstances where during a negotiation or transaction, the buyer now needs to consider a new large capital expenditure they hadn't anticipated on the direction of their insurance carrier. So that's been, really a big issue for us. I even have a deal earlier from a few months ago that was in escrow where the buyer was able to secure insurance. So they got an insurance quote, but these insurance quotes are generally only good for 30 days. And by the time they got their loan approval 45 days later, the previous insurance carrier was no longer insuring buildings that were pre-1979. So now we have to scramble, find a new insurance carrier that meets the lender's requirements. All of a sudden, you've got a higher insurance premium. it's kind of like everything builds off of each other and creates more of a ripple effect. So, again, like I said, that's probably the biggest factor right now. I'd say insurance is one of the larger challenges.
Do you have any insights or any optics into what has changed in the market that has created this tilt or shift in insurance?
Yeah, so there's a variety of reasons. So for one, you do have the replacement cost, which is increased significantly, right? Mm-hmm. Just the cost of labor and materials. Each of these buildings, if you're going to replace them today versus 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago, it's much more expensive now. So it is, a higher premium to do that. You also have some of those legislative changes which have made California a more tenant-friendly environment. So it's more litigious for landlords for habitability type of claims. And then you also have, the other part of this, which is, these buildings, they're getting old, 50s, 60s construction building, you're talking, 70 years in age, just like us. These buildings, when they get older, they're going to need things to be repaired. So you look at an 80s construction building, 80s construction is now nearing 40-ish lifespan, and that plumbing that was original copper plumbing lasts about 40 years. A lot of that's going to be on its way out. So these are the things that are coming up. It's and then if you, of course, you look at some of the other policies within California with the insurance carriers not being able to necessarily raise their premiums the way they wanted, and how was the overall environment, incentivizing more insurance carriers to come into the industry, or is it kind of pushing them out? So you've got like a convergence of a lot of factors. It's not just California that's dealing with this, right? You have a lot of places that are having insurance issues, but that's probably been the largest consideration right now in the apartment sector.
And I would 100% agree. And it was from our side, it came on seemingly almost suddenly overnight. I mean, for real estate, things don't usually move that quickly. And it was like one month, everything was fine. Next month, like you said, within 45 days, that insurance company was no longer accepting 1978 or before buildings. Everything changed in a month.
The way it went, it changed, and then it continues to change. So it's a moving target. It might improve next year. There may be other changes, but for now, like I said, that's definitely one of the larger obstacles.
Thank you for that. Was some insight I wasn't aware of. So appreciate your insight. You got some in-depth knowledge of it. You're dealing with it every day, I suspect.
Yeah.
How do you maintain? And so all of this, it's through all the deals and the workload and sometimes the stress and the ups and downs with real estate deals. How do you maintain a good work-life balance? I can see by the back on your wall you have like little ones just by the drawings on your wall, your artwork. I mean, how do you balance like the family life, your personal life, like piano and basketball playing, and family life in a world?
I think so. I think time blocking is particularly important.
Time blocking.
It's really important to have set things that you do throughout the day that that help you compartmentalize your time, so that you're really utilizing your time the best way that you can. Another thing that's really important is setting non-negotiables for yourself. So you do need to, prioritize for yourself what's most important to you within your life, and establishing that set of rules. So it could be exercising 3-4 times a week for 2 hours. It could be, hey, I need to cold call every single day, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 12, and then again from 2 to 4. I need to work X amount of hours on a weekend. I think if you're able to block out your schedule in a really meticulous, calculated way, it helps you be a lot more successful and be able to do all the things that you want and achieve that type of balance. I also think, like you said, like it's a stressful business, right? You're juggling a lot of different things, new proposals, different escrows, listings, marketing, running an office. There are a lot of different hats you have to wear, a lot of things you got to do. You kind of have to be able to keep a cool head if you're going to succeed. It's just
100%.
It's kind of like there's not really any smooth deal, right? Every deal is going to have its hiccups and its issues. Some of them are going to be a lot more difficult than they need to be, but that's kind of like what you get paid to do as a broker. Things are going to go wrong. It's going to get tense. It's going to be difficult. You've got to be able to keep it together and shepherd the transaction to the closing. That's kind of how we establish ourselves as, and showing value. A lot of times if there's a fire, you don't need someone else to, throw more gasoline on it, right? I've had, I can tell you just, it's like, like I said, if you're actively involved in, 5, 6 transactions at a time, you're going to have different fires you're putting out at different points. Even myself, like on just a deal we closed last week, we had an issue where an incoming international wire, didn't come through because you have different requirements and delays, and there was some miscommunication between escrow and the, buyer's international intermediary and this and that. And, there's a panic because, you're trying to track down money and it's, where is it coming? This takes too long. The timing here is, 10 hours ahead. No one can get on the phone. The last thing you really need is, someone who's just intensifying the stress. You need someone who's just going to say, okay, we got a problem solved here. What, do we have the tracking number? Are you in touch with this person? Are you going to be available after hours so we can hop on a call at 8 p.m. even though it's after hours so you can talk to their bank because they open at 9? And I mean, you just got to kind of dial people in and just say, hey, let's cool it. Let's figure it out, because panic doesn't solve any problems. It's more about kind of getting people to realize there's a solution. We just have to work together to get it done.
You're the great de-escalator, right? The calm, cool-headed.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, there's stuff, like if you sell, if you're involved in hundreds of deals, you see a lot of stuff, right? So, I mean, I've had transactions where 4 partners don't get along to the extent that they each have individual counsel. They can't even be on the phone together for a transaction. So every update phone call is 4 phone calls. It's one call to one pair of the attorney-client, next attorney-client. So, I mean, everything you do, you got to do it that way, because if they're on the phone, some of them are not getting along enough that they're willing to just go against the other partner to destroy the deal. So, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to work within the confines of what you have.
What you explained is atypical, but not surprising. Like things can get, anything you can imagine to happen could happen in this business. It's like Murphy's Law is rampant in real estate. I feel
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I agree.
Like if it can, it will. So you got to be prepared to have the tools to be. You can only be so proactive, right? You have the good set of reactive tools that de-escalate the situation, not inflate it. Right. Your demeanor, and then just from working with you, I think I know that to be very true about you. It's like all right, we're just solving another problem to solve, right? That's what we do. We're master problem solvers. Because it's always a problem. That's
what the job is. So
exactly. Last question before our rapid fire round. What are some of your biggest aha moments in commercial real estate in your career?
The biggest aha type of moment or takeaway, I'd say over the last several years, I've had some pretty long-term clients of mine who had to have liquidated portfolios, like a large amount of real estate, and not because they wanted to, but because life kind of threw certain things their way that you couldn't have necessarily anticipated. Health issues, things where like they had lived their whole life working towards a goal, and there's like certain buildings that I ended up selling where we go by the building and you point to it and say, hey, I'm never going to sell that. That was the one, that was the building where I made it, stuff on the, premier real estate. But sometimes, health circumstances change, and it kind of forces your hand to make certain changes in your life. And you kind of spent most of your life, working so hard to create this, this huge nest egg, this huge, portfolio of, very impressive amount of buildings. And then all of a sudden, you had to kind of sell that off because, you need treatment and different things. For me, that was like, it really hit hard to see, a few people go through that. And that was really eye-opening. That was like, hey, like this is, I hate to say like a blessing in disguise, but at the same time, it was like an awakening moment of, look, you're in this rat race of scrambling, making all these calls, doing all these deals, start buying buildings, do this, do that. that stuff's important, but just make sure, health has to be on that, priority list. Family has to be on that priority list. Mental health has to be on that priority list. So for me, I think that's probably like the biggest takeaway I've had in 16 years is seeing some of those things happen firsthand. And, like you could be meeting with a client that was your mentor, taught you so much in the business, and he no longer can talk or speak. He has a keyboard on, like a printout of a keyboard, and is pointing to letters, and you're writing down the letter so you can communicate with him. So, I mean, you see such an extreme, and that's just like one example. Like I've seen, like I said, you do enough deals, you work with enough people, you see, a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of different things, but those types of experiences really shaped my life and the way I think, how I connect myself as a husband, as a father, as a friend. These are, I think, probably the biggest aha type of moments you could ever imagine.
Thank you for sharing that, Jonathan. That's very, very good insight, because it's one thing to we can never buy back time, right?
Yeah.
Time is our most precious resource, right? Time is life, more or less. Like if you're wasting someone's time, in my opinion, you're wasting their life, right? So, it's like, don't waste my life. I'll never waste yours, right? Because we can't get the minute back. We can't get this 30 minutes of us talking back. So we want it to be intentional. I think and it looks like the old saying, learn from your mistakes. A smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes or experiences of others.
Yeah.
Okay, and congratulations on seeing that firsthand. I mean, it's because it just is. It's not good or bad. It just is. Take that back to my own. Put that in my own back pocket myself. It's a good experience here. Thank you for that, Jonathan. And with that concludes our formal interrogation. On to the rapid fire round. 6 quick questions I'm going to ask, and I'm going to try to be quiet. It's a hard thing for me to do, but I will try. And you go on as long or as short as you like to about the question. Are you ready, Jonathan?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What's the last book you've read?
Last book I read was Roald Dahl, The Twits. I read with my kids every night, so I'm normally putting my son to sleep. So it's either Dr. Seuss or Roald Dahl, whatever he's feeling like. But a 6-year-old starting to learn, so that's learning how to read. So that's every night, one of those.
Best book there is. The best kind of reading, reading to your children. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Probably best advice I ever received. I was working really late and very discouraged in the business, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Like I was, flirting with the idea of leaving brokerage and quitting, because it was just one of those times, I don't know, like 10, 12 years ago. I cold called a random person who told me, they said, hey, I used to be a broker and you've been calling me for, X amount of times. I know how tough it is, just letting you know, whenever you feel like quitting, all that means is you're getting that much closer to your goal. If you don't feel like quitting, you're not doing it right. And, random person, random phone call, didn't realize it, but kind of gave me that extra, gas in the tank to keep pushing at the time.
I've never heard that before. That's great. From a random cold call, wisdom from a stranger. That's cool. Best kind. Yeah. Favorite city to visit?
Favorite city to visit? Probably Nashville, Tennessee, because my wife's from there. It's probably not so much the city as much as it is her family. Amazing family, and always nice to go there and see all of them. Most loving people. So,
piano or basketball, if you could only choose one?
Oof. So that's like an ongoing battle in my world. Right now, basketball's winning, but it goes back and forth. The issue, of course, is if you play enough basketball, you're not going to be playing piano because you got finger sprains and injuries, and you're, hurt. But probably long term, it'll be piano, because you can play piano when you're, as long as you can sit at a chair and move those fingers. But right now, basketball's winning that battle.
What's your go-to productivity hack?
Productivity hack. It's got to be the time blocking that I mentioned before. That's really important. Can't really stress it enough. Trying to think of a good. There's a book, Ultimate Sales Machine.
Ultimate sales.
It's a very good book for someone who's got entrepreneurial spirit. That's something they cover in there is being able to time block really well. And like I said, just being able to create these carve outs within your day of things that you're going to do. It's really a change, huge game changer to turn everything off and say, hey, I'm only doing this at this period of time. It takes a lot of self-discipline, but that's probably the biggest thing someone could do to be productive.
I don't have to remember that, but what was it? What was the book again, Jonathan?
Ultimate Sales Machine.
Ultimate Sales Machine.
Yeah, I could send, if you want, I could send you a few books that I think might be helpful.
Love it. Read a couple books a month. I'd love to. And last and final question. One of my favorite questions. What is your favorite failure?
Favorite failure. So it's, look, I think with time, you kind of look at failure a little bit differently. Obviously, for me, some of like the biggest listings I've ever won have been a direct result of losing a small listing or smaller listing right before. Just something, sorry about that, just something that, kind of naturally happens is when you lose at something or, you don't succeed, it kind of pushes you to work that much harder the next go around. But probably my biggest, what felt like a failure was back in 2020, I was in escrow to buy a house, which I thought was like my, dream house at the time. COVID hit. It was like subject to a court sale, court confirmation. The courts got shut down for about a year. And then, of course, the housing market changed. So, I go to court at, 8 a.m. for the hearing, and some guy shows up, and his first bid on that, dream house was a couple $100,000 above my contract price. And, there I was just kind of, I didn't even have, I couldn't bid against him or anything. It was just already at my top price. And I had lost the house at the time. For me, that felt like the single biggest failure, being in that position. And I just it took a lot out of me. I let, my family down. I let myself down. I had been to this house, 100 times in that year with contractors and renovators and this and that. At the time, that felt like probably the biggest failure to that date or point in my life. But of course, like with all other failures, it's just another learning experience. So, from that, a lot of good things happened in my life. I ended up actually, living somewhere closer to my, in-laws and family. It ended up making it so that the kids are now closer to each other and this and that, so a lot of other positive things came from it. But at the time, it kind of pulled me down a lot. And then you kind of have that rebound. You come down and you feel like you are incompetent or you did something wrong or you should have done this. You should have been, more ready to do this or that. And then you look back, and it's like something you never even think about. So
I can empathize with that feeling. It's just I know exactly. Just at the time, it's why I shouldn't even be in this business. I can't even buy a house. Where should I be selling? How can I be managing other people's properties? It's when I can't even manage my own dang one house.
Well, it's like most things in life. They seem a lot tougher and harder when you're there. Once you get through them, then they're just kind of a learning experience that show you can take on something just as tough as that and more. So that's just part of personal growth. Right?
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our inquisition, Jonathan. I do appreciate you for your time. Tell before we go, let everybody know how to they can get a hold of you should they need some advice on real estate, want to list or buy something in the multifamily commercial world.
So they can always call us 310-593-9868. That's my office direct. They can email us. My personal email, Jonathan, JONATHAN @shieldcre.com. Feel free to check out our website, www.shieldcre.com. And of course, anything real estate related, happy to help.
Thank you so much for your time, Jonathan. It is appreciated. And that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen.